Hi, I'm Ju-len.
And I'm Luke.
Today we're going to show you Audi's most powerful road-going car ever, and it just happens to be electric.
We show you what it's like, why it looks the way it does, and more. Stay tuned to the end of the video to find out how the e-Tron GT actually sounds.
Buy and sell cars smarter, better and faster on our marketplace UCars, with thousands of great deals available from dealers island-wide.
First things first, Ju-len, I'm going to ask what the audience is thinking. What is an e-Tron GT?
Okay, so e-Tron is what Audi calls its electric cars, right? And here in Singapore, we've got the e-Tron and the e-Tron Sportback, and both of those are SUVs.
But this is an e-Tron, it isn't an SUV.
Right, okay, so this is the e-Tron GT, and GT stands for Grand Tour or Gran Turismo. And it's basically a sporty four-door sedan. It's designed to convey people at high speed and comfort and style. And if the R8 was Audi's flagship for the combustion era, well, Audi really thinks of the e-Tron GT as its flagship for the electric era.
Cool, wow. How much does it cost?
Okay, well, there's two versions here in Singapore. There's the e-Tron GT for $489,000 at launch time, and then there's the RS E-Tron GT RS, and that's $620,000.
So when you say RS, it's like kick you in the Rs, isn't it?
Not quite. RS stands for Rennsport, which is racing sport. So Audi has this subsidiary that designs and tests and builds its fastest cars. So it's called Audi Sport, and they do build the e-Trons, but the RS is the fastest version.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the regular e-Tron are for drivers who are normal, and the RS are for people who have absolutely no self-control. Maybe people who have slightly sort of a screw loose. Am I right?
Oh yeah, baby. Let Daddy take you for a ride. Yeah, we're gonna have so much fun together.
Okay, Luke, I'm gonna be straight up with you. I am so glad this is not another freaking SUV. So glad.
Because like every EV here, which is an SUV almost, the Jaguar I-Pace, Mercedes-Benz EQC, BMW iX3, and of course, e-Tron SUVs.
Right, and that's not really because car designers are all lazy buggers. It's because batteries are these huge, long, plank-like things, and you have to put them somewhere, right? Best place to put them is kind of at the bottom of the car, so everything else tends to be built on top of that.
Which makes SUVs high-riding, and I guess that's easier to make an SUV electric than, say, a sedan.
But here we have a sexy, low-slug four-door sedan, and that is made possible because the e-Tron GT has a dedicated kind of EV architecture. And that's because it shares its platforms with another all-electric car, and that's the Porsche Taycan. So the Audi e-Tron GT and the Porsche Taycan are actually sister cars.
Speaking of the Taycan, I saw that CarBuyer actually have a video of a proper racing driver testing that car here in Singapore.
That's right.
So don't forget to check that out. Okay, but the subtext I'm getting here is that SUVs are family mobiles, but here's a car that is fun to drive and can be seen for really keen drivers.
Yep, absolutely. So, in Singapore, there's always an appetite for flashy, sexy, high-performance cars, right? So the Audi e-Tron GT, I think, takes all of those attributes and it really flips the switch on electromobility, but for fun, fast and keen drivers like me. Okay, now let's talk about car design. My favorite bit of the car is always the back, and you can see a couple of things here. There's a sort of really broad rear here and some of the recognizable Audi Quattro bulges. And you can also see how the roof really tapers down to meet the back of the car. That's for aerodynamic purposes. And I don't know if you can see the rear diffusers there, but they're nice to look at. But on this car, they are actually super functional. They're there to reduce drag. Basically, you want to speed up the air under a car and then slow it down as it meets the air coming over the top of it. That helps to reduce drag, which is good for range. Now, have a look at the side of the car as well. Very slinky shape, and again, that's all in the name of low wind resistance. Something I think you can see when you have a look at the car is just how kind of slinky and low slung it is, and that's because you don't have a huge engine underneath here. So you can almost see like it's sort of like, it almost looks like plastic that's sort of melted in between the two wheels, and it really tapers down low to the front. Now, speaking of the front, let's have a look here. Now, one thing about electric cars, of course, is that they don't have this huge appetite for air, that combustion cars have. So these look like air intakes, but they're not. They're actually closed off. And even the spaces between the four rings are closed off. You have an air intake here that actually channels air past the wheels and sort of cleans up the airflow. You do have a little bit of intakes here, and that's because you still need some air for the air conditioner. You need stuff for the battery cooling system, but by and large it's very closed off. You can see that there's still sort of remnants of the Audi single frame grille though. So I think that number one, you can really see that this is an electric car. But number two, even though this is kind of a sister car to the Porsche Taycan, it really does still look like an Audi. Now, something many electric cars do have though is this. When you pop the bonnet, you don't see an engine. Instead, you see a frunk or a front trunk. Now, this one actually has 85 liters of space in here. And again, that's because there's no engine. There's instead an electric motor, which is very compact, and it has very few sort of ancillary moving parts. So this is where a kind of power efficiency leads to space efficiency.
And here we have 405 liters, which is perfect for a GT. Now you can get more than a weekend's luggage in here, maybe even a golf bag. But here's something more interesting.
Check out this light bar that stretches clear across the back of the car for that Kim Kardashian unmistakable see it from outer space kind of look. Now Luke, I've actually seen one of these at night, and let me tell you, it's super eye-catching.
Wow. Now check this out. If you want to catch some attention, this actually pops up. But let's say, if you're traveling at low speeds, this wing will actually stay down, which is smooth and slippery, which is perfect for efficiency. But at high speeds, this wing actually pops up, making the car more stable when traveling at high speeds.
I'll tell you what though, if you can't tell it's an Audi from the outside, you can certainly tell from the inside. I mean, this isn't too far off what you would get in an A6 or A7 Sportback. It does have a monoposto design, which means a lot of these screens kind of wrap around the driver a little bit more than they do in the other Audis. But if you were expecting something out of Star Trek, then you might be disappointed. But on the other hand, if you've never had an electric car before, or you've never had an Audi before, then I think everything's laid out quite logically, and you're gonna probably feel right at home in this.
Now there's room for 3 in the back, which makes the e-Tron GT a 5-seater vehicle. That's one difference you can tell from the Taycan. And check this out though. Like the Taycan, the batteries are underneath the cabin floors, and you have little cutouts for your feet, which most electric cars don't have.
But high speed isn't just about how fast you're going to lose your license in one of these things. There's also charging speed to consider as well. Now, most electric cars are 400 volts, but this baby is 800 volts, and that not only allows for thinner and lighter cables inside the car, but it also enables super fast charging, up to 270 kilowatts in some countries. But here in Singapore, probably the fastest way to charge this thing is at one of Audi's dedicated chargers. That gets up to 120 kilowatts, which brings you from 0 to 80% battery in less than an hour.
Oh, 0 to 80% battery is one thing. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour is what you really want to know. In which case, the e-Tron GT, which you saw earlier, can zip to 100 kilometers per hour in just 4.1 seconds.
How much horsepower does it have?
That's 530 horsepower,
Right.
2 motors, all-wheel drive, instant response.
I bet you can't wait to drive that thing.
Nah, I really can't wait to drive this thing.
I actually have driven the e-Tron GT, but I haven't driven the RS. And with 646 horsepower, 0 to 100 in 3.3 seconds, I really can't wait. Now, people sometimes say that electric cars have no soul, right? But I think if you can't get excited about 0 to 100 in 3.3 seconds, then you have no soul.
Now, in case you were wondering, the e-Tron GT can cover up to 400 kilometers in one single charge. That should get you from Jurong to Changi more than about 8 times.
Okay.
But Ju-len, I was wondering, how is this the most powerful road-going car that Audi has ever made?
Well, okay, before this there was a version of the R8 with a V10 engine, Performance Edition. That was the most powerful with a 620 horsepower engine. But this has up to 646. So 646 versus 620. You know, I'm afraid the RS E-Tron GT comes out tops.
Oh, so the flagship carriage passes from one bunch of horses to the next. The horses that don't fart, of course.
Exactly. So this has been our quick look at the new Audi E-Tron GT and the RS E-Tron GT. We'll be taking these cars out for a test drive pretty soon, so look out for our reviews on carbuyer.com.sg.
Don't forget to follow us, like this video, and subscribe to us as well.
See you next time.
Thank you. Still here? Great. There's one last thing. The e-trons have a unique signature sound, and Audi has sampled hundreds of different noises to create a special sound for this car. And you can have a special e-tron sport sound as an option. 2 external speakers, rear door speakers generate the sounds. Now we can't drive around in here, but have a listen. Now for the movie buffs, here's an Easter egg for you. You must have recalled the Audi R8 in the first Iron Man film. And what you actually heard in 2019's Avengers Endgame from this car is actually all Hollywood. What Audi actually did was digitally generate the noise to fit perfectly into the scene. It's too bad Tony won't be driving this car anytime soon, but you can. Eat your heart out, Iron Man.